In a market defined by uncertainty, where every second counts, one opportunity can change everything. Are you ready to make your move? The time is now! Welcome to the Dream is Real podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Dream is Real podcast. This is the place if you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or even advance your career in real estate. Before we get started, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Don't want you to miss a moment as we keep bringing you great episodes. And I'm excited about today here with Warren Nelson. He's the director of Online Real Estate School out of Pennsylvania. Warren, welcome. Glad that you're joining me today.
Jason, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Awesome. So let's kick off hearing a little bit about you. From what I understand, you are training the agents of the future there in Pennsylvania. Tell us a little bit about you and the Online Real Estate School, please.
All right. Online Real Estate School is about 5-6 years old, and we're a unique school because most real estate schools are a 3-week program to prep you for the real estate exam. What we do, we're an 8-week program. We not only prep you for the real estate exam, but we teach you how to run a real estate business. We teach you how to interview brokers, and we teach you how to invest in property legally and ethically. So this is a great platform, Jason, because this is a state required class. So therefore, students know what they can and cannot do legally. And what pleased me with your company, The Dream, is that it does the same thing that I do. I do a lot more than just prep you for the exam. I teach you how to run a real estate business. I also have a brokerage that is designed as a college, and it's only for my students. The brokerage doesn't hire anybody else except for students. And so we take you from the classroom after 8 weeks in the classroom, and we take you into the field, working with the client, working with the contracts, understanding exactly what you need to do to be compliant, how to work with a buyer under a buyer agency agreement, how to work with a seller. And I usually start my agents in the field under first time buyers. It's a very good transition because they're brand new agents. And because they're still learning how to run a business, working with a first time buyer is a very good transition for a new agent. So we do that. And this is what our program has been. So when I was introduced to the Dream, and helping agents understand their business a lot better, it worked naturally with my program. And I figured this would be a very good marriage to help both of us, to help the agents and make the real estate community and a lot better, a lot safer, and a lot more compliant.
Fascinating. And for those out there that maybe have not gone through the testing or are not agents, when you go through the schooling, I've heard multiple proctors as well as students and those in real estate say, well, you need to learn the material. And then when you get into the field, you really learn what it means to be a real estate agent. Not that the material is not important, but there's so much to it. And I think where you really nail it is teaching them how to treat it or run it like a business. How important is it for the agent to see it as more than a job, a career, but actually a business that they run on a day-to-day basis?
In order to satisfy their dreams, they all have that entrepreneur blood going through their veins, but they are naturally green. They don't know what to do. And I say this to my students in my class: you are the best real estate agent that you're ever going to be right now in my class, because what you're doing right now in my class is you're telling everybody on social media that you're in a class, that you're going to be a real estate agent. You're trying to teach what you're already learning. But the minute you take the exam and pass the exam, then you're like, what do I do now? And you're almost lost after that. And a lot of brokers are not equipped to train or educate their agents. Most brokerages are built on a pyramid. 1,000 agents, 100,000 agents, and where are you in 1,000 agents? You're just a wheel on a cod, and you're not going to get the training that you need, which is why I like a small brokerage of under 20 agents to have that hands-on to take you where you want to go. So it's very important to help them understand the business, the cutthroat, the competition, and the inventory of what's available and what's not available, and how the economy works, how interest rates go, And so teaching them this and showing them that they have an opportunity after they pass the exam to really lift their business, it gives a full picture to help them. But I also teach them in my class that 75 hours is 75 hours and there are no shortcuts. And I teach management. In order to be successful in life, this is for everybody, and you want to be successful in life, it all comes down to management. Most people can't manage their day, their money, their affairs. And so this is what most people fail at in life because they don't have the management principles. And it's not born. You have to learn the management. But once you get management under control, you're going to be successful.
So it sounds like your model, basically versus some traditional brokerages where, to your point, someone gets out of the class, gets into general population of a big brokerage and a system that's already in place that has deals running, and it's a matter of that individual getting the continued education or finding their niche. It seems like right out of the gate you are looking to cultivate the best practices, the success principles. Again, to use your words, the concept of management in itself very early on. And I'm sure that itself really kicks things off in the right way, versus winging it for a bit and then having to unlearn once you are, exposed to maybe some of the best practices that you would normally present.
I can't teach compliance if I'm not compliant myself. The school is not supposed to be designed as a recruiting platform, first and most. And that's what the state requires. A lot of brokers have schools and they use them as a recruiting platform. So, what I do in my class is we teach you how to interview brokers. Some of my students already have a direction on where they're going to be going, which is why they're in my class. Some of them work for management companies. They now know that they need a license, a real estate license to take leases and deposits, and so some of them are already situated, and others don't know where they're going to be going. So I want to make sure that I make sure that the students understand that I'm not recruiting you. I'm just one option. But what I do want you to do is learn how to interview a broker when you do start. And I recommend that you interview at least 3 brokers before you make any decisions and sign anything. So this is what I try to instill with my students, that you don't have to go with me. Wherever you go, I wish you the best. But even if you do come with me, the way that this business is designed, Jason, it's not a lot longevity. So my job is, everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody has their own dreams and desires. My job is to help you. So if you're with me for maybe a year or two, which is longevity, then you're learning what you need to learn so you can go on to doing what you wanted to do all along from the very beginning. Maybe you want to have a dynasty. Maybe you want to have your family. Maybe you want to be your own broker, because you got to be a real estate agent for 3 years in Pennsylvania before you're allowed to go for your broker's exam. So I teach these models, but my job is to help the student get to where they're trying to go.
Look, a couple of great concepts there. Let's start with interviewing a broker. And many agents probably come out of the class, if they haven't been engaged with a broker or two, and they're coming out, and the mindset of job interview is probably there. Right. So if you could maybe peel back the curtain just a little bit and delve into the importance of interviewing a broker and why that is, and really what you're looking for as an agent just coming right out of the gate.
Absolutely. I say to my students, when you interview for a job, you bring your resume and your assets, what you can do for the employer. But when you interview a broker, it's just the opposite. You want to know what the broker can do to help your business. So the broker's supposed to have a platform to help you as an independent contractor grow your business. And when you interview a broker, they usually offer you all the bells and whistles, the leads, maybe trips and cruises and so forth. And these things are designed to bring you into the brokerage. But once you're in, sometimes you're just wallowing around and all those dreams never come true. And a lot of these bigger brokers want to put you in with another real estate agent as a mentor, and I never liked that. How is a real estate agent legally supposed to be your mentor and take a piece of the commission? There's some legality issues there. I'm not going to go into that. But do you really want another real estate agent who's trying to learn their own business being your mentor? So when you interview brokers, you want to ask not only what the commission split's going to be, but what are your charges? Because it costs to be boss. And some brokers charge you for everything. They charge you for copies, the phone, even the toilet paper. And so you have to ask these questions and understand it's not just about how much I'm going to be making a commission, but what's it going to cost me to work here as well.
Sure, sure. And you touched on a word, longevity, I would be hard pressed to imagine anybody doesn't go through the 75, 77 hours and not have in mind, hey, I'm going to do this for a period of time and I'm going to plan for it to be a big part of my future. So why do you think in the real estate space, when it comes to agents, that longevity is not always there, although it's planned from the start?
Back to the management, because most people don't know how to manage a company. When you're starting in real estate, you're not going to be an employee. As an employee, it's easy to do what we're told: get your butt in or you're fired, be here at this hour, wear certain clothing. So, as an employee, it's easy to do what you're told. But as an independent contractor, and I use Lyft and Uber, it's easy to be a Lyft driver and make money. The hard part is getting off the sofa and behind the wheel and start driving. And that's going to be the same thing in real estate. If you can't motivate yourself and you can't get a management discipline going, then it's going to be a recipe for disaster because you don't have this structure yet. You have the dreams and desire, but as I say, you got to work to succeed. And everybody wants to get paid, but don't want to put in the work. Everybody wants to get rich, but don't want to do what it takes. So I teach that, you're going to make more money than you ever made in your life. Once you have that real estate license, you got a golden ticket. And it is a golden ticket, it's a passport for life. You'll never be broke, you'll never be unemployed. Work will come to you. But if you can't motivate yourself to do, then you won't.
How much of a role does the gap between what I want and where I'm at, and in the in between of how do I get there? How does that gap play a role? And I guess that would take us right back to mentorship and management out of the gate from the broker itself.
It's a good question because when my students become my agents, this is where I notice the desire. It's almost like you went through all this work to get that real estate license, and now that you're licensed, I guess maybe that really was the goal because I can't force you to be successful. With my agents, we use High Level as a CRM, and I give my agents websites. I give it to them, website. I give them landing page. I give them post and the post that they can automatically do. I literally hand them everything that they need: the website, the landing page, the social media, show them exactly what to do. And all they got to do is handle the leads. And of course, I can manage the leads coming in and see how the agents are handling the leads because it's through the same system. But no other broker is going to do that, set you up with your own website, set you up with your own landing pages, your drop down windows, your social posts. Because, again, as I said, my job as the broker is to help you as a real estate agent build your business. And you can't complain that I didn't give you everything you need. And even though I do, Jason, I give them everything, yet nothing. And so we have weekly reports. And I'll say, this week you got to do one social, set up one social, and send me a headshot. A week goes by and they didn't even send me a headshot. You can't put a phone in front of you like you do every day anyway and take a picture of yourself and send it to me, yet they don't. And I will let them know that you're not following. But with me, I'm not into 100 agents. If you're not doing what you want to do and what you're supposed to do, because this is a college, this is the way I treat my brokerage, then I'm going to escrow your license back to Harrisburg and you can affiliate with someone else because I don't want to be failing you when you're supposed to be here learning how to run a business and you don't really want to run a business. So the gap into your question, Jason, is huge because once they pass the exam, it's not like they know how to run a business. It's they're still good at being employees. It's a tough transition sometimes.
Right, right. Very good. And for those listening, if you haven't heard of High Level, it is a tremendous platform. Everything from being able to manage contacts through automations. I mean, we could probably talk all day on that, but I think it's great that you.
I'm not affiliate either, so I don't make any money, but
Neither am
I
neither am I. I'm just familiar in my experience.
good, and I'll give it its credit. It is a good platform, and I teach my students if they're not using artificial intelligence and Zoom or a platform like this, then you're missing the boat because this is 2026. And 2026, you got to be virtual and you got to have artificial intelligence. And so, High Level does a good job of incorporating that into the platform as well.
Right. And I think really, and correct me if you disagree, what we're talking about here in the process of speaking with brokers is, do they have a system in place, and is that system bearing fruit, and is that system uh, laying out tools for success? But at the same time, I think we've established here pretty clearly that it's going to take you as me as the individual working that system and taking the business seriously.
Okay, to answer your question, sorry to cut you off, Jason. I didn't have to finish. We have to go back to the NAR versus the DOJ and that court case that just happened to kind of give you an answer. And what happened in that court case said that a lot of brokers were not teaching their real estate agents the proper way of working with buyers specifically. And most brokers, when you come to a new brokerage, they're going to get you as a listing agent. They're going to put you on the phone. You have to understand, I'm a baby boomer. And so you got baby boomer, then you got Generation X, then you got millennials, then you got Generation Z, then you're gonna have Generation Z Alpha, Generation Z Beta. This as an instructor, I gotta always look at the future, what my students are gonna be, and how to train my students of the future. And a lot of brokers are still using baby boomer techniques that the younger agents aren't aren't equipped. It's not easy to go door to door, knocking on doors like I used to. It's not easy getting on the phone, doing cold call. This doesn't come naturally or comfortably to newer agents, but yet a lot of brokers are still using. And the brokers want you to be listing and I'll talk about it in a second. But if you leave, those listings stay. And so the broker likes making you a listing agent. But I teach my agents how to work with the buyers. I have more respect for a buyer agent because anybody can put a sign on a property. Any agent could do that. But it's the buyer agent who qualifies the buyer, goes through the home inspection, does everything that needs to be done. And yet the agent who put a sign on a property says, just sold the property. No, you didn't. You listed it. The buyer agent sold the property.
So you had said earlier on that out of the gate, you connect new agents with first-time home buyers. Give us a sense of the skills that you're looking to develop and why that introduction seems to be the most fruitful for a new agent.
Because this is where you're going to get your bumps and bruises. This is where you're going to get your chicklets knocked out, especially the home inspection. And if you're going to be running a business, and it's my job to help you run a business, then you need to understand the business. And business comes in the buyer side. Anybody can go out there and put a sign on the property. Anybody could do that. But working with a buyer, now you're going to understand how grants work, how the lender works, mortgage qualification, what they need to do with your credit score, just pay down certain things. We're not looking to clean your credit like credit repairs and credit consolidation. They actually do more harm than good. And so I want my agent to understand that if you're going to run a real estate business, not everybody has cash. And you better understand the financing market. And the financing market's changing. As I try to teach them, we got a president who's a real estate tycoon that's going to be making some changes. And every 4 years, whether you like the president or don't, it doesn't matter. The hate game is yours. But you better understand you're running a business. And what happens in politics affects your business. Every president has an effect on your real estate business, whether you like them or don't like them. So you need to understand that you got to put certain things aside because you're running a business. And it's very important to understand. I, I've been doing this for 30 years. Back in the 80s, when interest rates were 18 to 22% for a mortgage, most people don't remember that. 18% to 22% get a mortgage. Most people don't remember that. And they cry about 7%, 5%. They cry about that. But most people don't understand that those people who bought property after the pandemic at 1 and 2% interest stuck. Nothing they can do. They can't refinance, they can't do anything. And so most people don't understand the interest rate game. And 7% is really a sweet spot. 5 to 7%, that's good because that gives you a lot of financial maneuvering later on down the line.
I want to say that is, it's going to sound wrong, but that's an unpopular opinion. But I do see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So you talk to folks in the market, and they're yearning to get back to the 2 and 3%. But you're saying that with the rates moderately higher than that, there's more. You feel like there is more options for the homeowner beyond.
At 2% interest rate, all you can do is brag that you got a mortgage at 2% interest rate, but you don't have a lot of flexibility. You're stuck. And so you're kind of landlocked. And so that's great. But at 7%, and then interest rates fluctuate down to 5 and 4%, now you can use the equity and lower payments, but you can't do that when your interest rate's at 2. What do you think it's going to happen? 1%, 0%? And so you kind of get stuck, and a lot of people don't understand. Why do you think people were getting rich in the 80s when interest rates were 18 to 22%? So what happened in the 80s when everybody was getting rich at 18 and 22% compared to now when it's 7%, 6%, 5%? And things are kind of chugging along slowly, but most people don't understand the interest rate game. I'm waiting to interest rates come down. Maybe that wasn't the smartest thing to do.
Well, I think,
You don't.
well, I'm speaking from a New York perspective. I'm sure Pennsylvania's in a very similar category that you could have waited, but now the price of the home it didn't give you quite the gap that you were looking for.
And I think what this president is going to be doing, and again, like or dislike, just understand what's happening. He's going to be having the corporations out of the single family property. And I like that to an extent because that is what you just said, Jason. The prices of these properties are going up, and it's really because of large corporations cornering the market and making everybody renters and they can't afford the buyers. So you have a mayor in New York that's going to be changing things drastically in the real estate arena. And we have a president that's going to be changing things drastically in that arena as well. And I think with the corporations not allowing them to be buying single family properties, that is absolutely going to, you can already see if you follow Bright or the MLS, you can already see that the market is already down when we got this supply and demand situation. And I think that's going to help bring these prices down. Not everybody can afford $1 million property. You go to California, a row home costs you $1 million. So that's not going to be feasible for everybody. And so drastic plans like that, like keeping the corporations, the big corporations from gobbling up everything, I think that will be a good plan, and they can gobble up the multifamily properties if they want, but the single family property should still be for the American dream.
So, as somebody who obviously has their pulse on not only what's going on today, but what's on the horizon, when talks of excluding corporations in that manner came about, was that something that surprised you? Because it seemed like the momentum was completely in the other direction.
And because the momentum was completely in other direction, this is why prices are so high. And a first time buyer can't afford the down payment. And we're lucky to have grants in Philadelphia, but we don't have grants throughout Pennsylvania. And so some areas are not considered first time buyers. Bucks County, Montgomery County, for instance, these are your move up buyers. And these are people who are supposed to use the equity from their first home to move up to a better school system for their children. And that's being taken away because we have these prices that are going astronomical, and it's because of the, in my opinion, corporations gobbling up and controlling that market. So I was surprised that the president even mentioned it, but then again, we got a real estate tycoon in the White House. How could that not benefit the real estate arena? Whether you like the president or don't like the president, I think it's important to follow along what he's trying to do, at least for single family properties, especially consider what the mayor's doing. Again, you got to understand these things. You got to understand politics, whether you like it or not. And the mayor's going to be doing things in New York that might not be acceptable. The president's going to be doing things that might not be acceptable. You can't please everybody.
Sure, sure. And I mean, the mantra of the dream is real. Why we established this was to share that the dream of home ownership, the dream of leveraging real estate to make your lifestyle what it could be, whether that's being secure in your forever home or being an investor that builds long-term legacy wealth. That in itself, with the larger corporations, which has quite a bit more buying power than most of us. The shift, I think, certainly it's worth the conversation that it opens up greater opportunity for those who are coming out of school, for those who are just establishing their businesses, getting their life started to be able to afford and buy the home. Let's shift for the last few minutes here to the agents themselves. We've talked a little bit about what's on the horizon for real estate. Definitely deeper topic that we can maybe even cover later, down the road as well. But where do you see the agent of the future? I mean, what we hear a lot is there's so many apps out there. Why are agents even needed? How would you address that with all the information that's at the fingertips of buyers and potential buyers and sellers? Let's start there, and then I'll have a follow-up question.
Okay. To start there, I want to just finish what we were just saying. When you buy a house, you're an investor. Whether you wanted to be an investor or not, the minute you bought a house, you're an investor. And so when my agents become agents, they're always asked certain questions like, how's the market? Should I buy now? And the agents don't really know how to answer these questions. And the reason they don't know how to answer the questions is because they're not listening to what they should be listening to. And now that you're running a business, and if you can't answer a question, you should not get punched in the nose with the same question again and not have an answer. So I teach rebuttal. And so I teach my agents, okay, you just got your checklist knocked out with that question. You couldn't answer, could you? Now, if somebody asks you that question again, are you going to take the hit again, or are you going to have an answer prepared next time? And I teach my agents that everything's template. I say the same thing to the buyers. I say the same things to the seller over and over again because it is a templated life and a templated world. And when you just speak off the cuff, you might say things that you probably shouldn't have said, especially in this
Yeah,
business.
this is not the
So
industry where you just want to say whatever comes to mind. You've got to be pretty calculated with how you present things, and that's for your benefit, and that's for obviously the benefit of and fulfilling your fiduciary responsibilities for those that you're talking to.
exactly. And so I teach my agents what to do before they even knock on the door, what we're looking at, because maybe we know what we can sell the property for because we did our comps, we did a CMA, but can we sell this property FHA? Can we sell it VA? We can sell it cash and conventional. But before you even knock on the door, I want you to look for certain things to even know, is the property to the right or left abandoned and boarded up? This property ain't going FHA. So I need them to understand, is it got handrails? We got trip? Is it broken windows? Before you even knock on the door, peeling paint. And then when you go into the property, I always like to start my tour in the basement, talk about the water heater and why, talk about the electrical panel and why, talk about standing on the wall and why. So educate that homeowner when you're in the property. And then it always comes down to the numbers, Jason. So I always say, let's sit down, do the numbers. If you're happy with the numbers, we go from there. Because what the seller cares about is bottom line for me. If everything's done and said, how much money's going in my pocket? And so I like to do the numbers, and a lot of agents are afraid of numbers. They rebel, and I teach this in my class. I even teach a math class in my class. It's math is easy, but you are conditioned to believe that it's hard, and that's not education. That's conditioning. We talk about that in class as well. So having the same template, the same routine is very, very good. When we work with buyers, I teach my agents to ask for the three twos. And we don't work with a buyer without the three twos. And the three twos are their last 2 years' tax returns, last 2 months' bank statements, and last 2 weeks' pay stubs. My agents will never take a buyer to a lender before they qualify the buyer, before taking them to the lender. So when we do go to the lender, we have a full package. We got their tax returns, their pay stubs, their bank statements, and then we send them to the lender. A lot of lenders have to do the agent's work, and then the agent gets mad at the lender. What happened? What's going on? Well, I asked them to send me these forms, and they never did. That's the agent's fault. The agent should have never sent that person to the lender until they had a full package.
Sure. Huh. That's that's equally fascinating because you will often hear of you, hey, stay in your lane, don't go down that road. But you're saying that having those preliminary conversations is in the best interest of everybody's time, if I'm hearing you correctly.
100%. And you are in your lane. Your job is to help your client. And you can't help your client without knowing your client. And so, what if your client doesn't have a job? What are you going to do? Send them to the lender? You didn't do your job. And now the lender doesn't want to take your call. Now the lender's not going to reply to you. So you have to understand that we work hand in hand with the financing arena. And you got to understand their objective and their desire as well, and incorporate that into your real estate business because you are running a business. And if you don't understand the lender, then it's going to affect your real estate business drastically. And besides that, my agents never take a buyer out to see a property without a buyer agency agreement. So, in order to get the buyer agency agreement, the consumer notice, we also get the forms that we need and we find out what our buyer wants, if they can even qualify. Have they been on a job for 2 years? If they haven't been on a job for 2 years, we are not going to go much further with them, but we will educate them on what we need to do. And that's another thing about high level. We have a nice funnel system to remind our unqualified buyers how to get qualified, because you could either be here again next year, like you were last year and the following year, or we can get the ball rolling. 6 months and a year goes fast, as we all know. Let's start working on what we need to do.
And laying that type of foundation, I think, builds tremendous value in the individual. To go back to the question and possibly the rebuttal, I think we've approached it maybe even indirectly here. Why would with all of the tools out there that are available to sellers and buyers, why does the buyer seller agent relationship still stand? I think with your methodology, it is because you get and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm getting is you get the person to person, but you still get the reliability of the deep wealth of knowledge that comes with all of the potentials that can happen in any real estate transaction. Am I accurate in hearing you on that?
You are, Jason. You are accurate. And no matter how far advanced we get in technology, the one on one is always going to be there, because a buyer, as I say to my real estate agent, you're not just a real estate agent, you're a counselor, you're a guidance, you're a support system. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between a pre qualification and a pre approval. And so I teach my agents, do you know the difference between a pre qualification and a pre approval? Real short, because we don't have much time. A pre-qualification says you got a good credit score, but the pre-approval says they pulled the three twos. The pre-approval says they pulled your bank statements, your tax returns. So that's a pre-approval. You never want to take your client out on a pre-qualification. So when a client walks into our office with pre-approval, it says pre-approval, the first thing we do is get on the phone with that lender. And if the lender's not even answering the phone now, you think we're going to have a problem with the lender in the middle of a deal. And so it's important to know the difference. So a lot of people are not understanding it, and they think that Jason, you're pre-qualified for $600,000 because you got an 830 fake FICO score. 630. But Based on your income, we can only qualify you for 300,000 because of the 28-36 rule. 28% of your income will qualify you for the mortgage. So we teach this in the class. So your credit score pre-qualified you for 600,000, but your income only qualified you for 300,000. Difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval.
Well, and a lot of people get that pre-qualification and they hit the road and they get disappointed, right? And it's part of the agent's responsibility to set the right expectations.
Ready, willing, and able buyer. And that able part is a legal standard. And if you are a real estate agent, you don't understand what I just taught you, and you're taking somebody out to see $600,000 property because Jason walked in my office with this $600,000 pre-approval, and we make an offer and put $5,000 on it, and it turns out that you're not qualified for 600,000. That's the agent's fault. That's not the client's fault.
And that's not how you want to kick off a a relationship. It's hard to recover from something like that. Well, yeah,
And chances are they don't have a buyer agency agreement when they even wrote the agreement of sale, which technically you're not entitled to your gratuitous agent. You're not entitled to your compensation after you do the agreement of sale. You're supposed to do your compensation agreement before, which was this NAR versus DOJ case that just happened. And old habits are hard to break, but that's one of the things that I like about my brokerage is I teach my agents how to do the buyer agency agreement, do it right, never take them out to see a property um, without that buyer agency agreement, and always work your compensation. And I teach them how to do the compensation. Listen, we all got bills to pay. We all got food to put on the table. This isn't charity. I'll be glad to help you, but my wife insists that I pay the bills and she's the boss. So this isn't charity. So we get paid for our services.
right, excellent. Well, this has been a great conversation. You know, prior to this, I went on the website. I took a look. You've got fantastic reviews around your school. Your website is very clear on a lot of things that we covered today in your differentiators from teaching actually the aspect of running a business to advanced memory techniques to I'm sure that we could talk quite a bit more, but I'd like to maybe here as we close allow you to summarize maybe some of the best advice that you can give to anyone that's thinking about being in the real estate space or is in the real estate space and maybe feels like they don't know where they're going. And then what we'll do is we'll allow our audience a way to get a hold of you.
That'd be good. And I thank you for the invite. If I ever have it again, I would love to come back. For agents, every 2 years, you got to do a continuing education. So this is not going to be the last time you're going to be doing education. You're going to be doing education throughout your career. And the reason that I like your platform and my platform is it teaches and continues to teach. And so what I'm going to be doing is adding a lot of videos to the Dream platform and helping agents understand there are different avenues. When you do a continuing education, most just do a continuing education to do it. But if you're working with investors, if you're working with buyers, if you're working with sellers, then your continuing education should be where your business is. And this is why this platform that you have, and I'm honored to be part of it, continues to teach. Even when you're a real estate agent, you're never going to stop learning. That's not the game. Every 2 years, you got to do a continuing education and you got to stay abreast. And if you don't know, how can you help?
Awesome. Warren, how could our audience connect with you beyond this program?
Online Real Estate School Inc., the inc.com. Online Real Estate School Inc.com is the easiest way. There's my telephone numbers there. But as I said, mostly everybody's going to want to, nobody likes to pick up the phone and make the call, or, that cold call, so they want to go the easier route text. There's plenty of social media, but to make things easier, online Real Estate School Inc.com. Go there. I'll be top of the search engine. I'm honored to have 5 stars. If you read my student reviews, you'll know that these are heartfelt reviews. None of them are canned. And I'm honored I have location in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Soon I'll have Harrisburg and Scranton as we expand. And we're going to be expanding in different states as well. I also have another school that I don't talk about just yet. We're going to get off the National Institute of Real Estate Education, which will be the umbrella of everything. So Online Real Estate School Incorporated will be the marketing platform, but the National Institute of Real Estate Education will be the big mouth covering everything in several different states as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. I'm sure we'll be in touch very, very soon. Glad we're connected. And thank you very much for watching as well. This is the Dream is Real podcast. If you want to connect with us further, you can go on Instagram or TikTok at Dream Select Realty. Find us on X at Dream Select Home. If you want to be part of this program, just email us at hometeam@dreamselectrealty.com. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. And remember, the dream is real.